Former Patriots Devin McCourty and Rodney Harrison recently spoke about their experiences while filming the Patriots documentary, The Dynasty, and how the story was portrayed. This is what they had to say on NBC.
I watched the first one and I watched a little bit of the second, and I hadn't watched any since. I mean, I interviewed for 5 or 6 hours. I was in New York, and all they had me saying was off. Like, that's it. That's all I saw myself say. Like, I have a lot of input into Tom and how these guys treated me and the things that happened that led to me signing here. That was a big deal. You know, I wasn't a big fan of it.
So somebody asked me about my takeaway, and that was my biggest takeaway. I felt like I got kind of duped because I was just like you. I did like 4 or 5 hours in New York, and then I did another like 2 or 3 hours in Massachusetts. And I was like, man, this is going to be great. Like the storytelling, we're talking about this and we're talking about that. And then I watched and I was just like, man, like only things I said that could come across as negative towards Bill was the only thing.
Does Devin McCourty and Rodney Harrison, do they have a point in their criticism?
Sure they do. I mean, they had those guys interview for hours and hours and hours about all of the good things that happened with the Patriots. There was good and bad, right? And they spent maybe 10% of their time talking about the bad, 90% about the good. All it showed up on the Dynasty documentary was the bad. So they're upset about it, and I can understand that. And they don't like the fact that it degraded Belichick, and it was really pointed at him. And because they feel, you know, that Belichick did a lot for them in their career. McCourty re-signed with them twice. Rodney Harrison, a low draft round pick, right? Played for another team, was given an opportunity by the Patriots to come in and play, won 2 Super Bowls with them. Hey, Rodney Harrison made his name playing for the Patriots, right? And now he has a pretty lucrative announcing career on NBC. And McCourty too. McCourty is he's there too in an announcing role. So I think these guys, they have a lot of praise for Belichick. They have a lot of praise for the Patriots organization. They have a lot of respect. They have a lot of appreciation. And none of that came through, only the negative comments. So I understand where they're coming from, and I agree with them 100%.
I'll give Rodney Harrison a lot of props. In his career, he's one of 2 players. He was the initial member, but he's one of only 2 players in NFL history to have 30-plus sacks as well as 30-plus interceptions. Very, very impressive feat. And Devin McCourty is a historical Patriot. My guess is he'll probably be in the Patriots Hall of Fame at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's just a legendary player for him. However, I am apparently, according to social media and former Patriots players, apparently I'm a minority in my own opinion. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Because I took it maybe a different way than a lot of the Patriots players and a lot of the fans, the Patriots fans, thought about this documentary. I think, based on, I keep saying this, the title, it was going to be a nostalgia run of how great this dynasty actually was. When, meanwhile, in the trailer, you could see that Robert Kraft said he was just trying to keep it together. So clearly there's a lot of turmoil. And in my opinion, this documentary, and I'm glad it did this, there were a lot of mysteries and questions surrounding that 20-year dynasty, and especially what happened? Why did it crumble? And this gave us a decent amount of answers. There's much more insight than what we previously knew before this 10-part docuseries came out, which I think is very good. And in my mind, if you want to reminisce about the good old times in the Patriots dynasty, you can go to the Man in the Arena on ESPN+. Tom Brady talked about his 10 Super Bowls. You can go through the 9 of them because the last one was with the Bucs. Or watch old highlights. There are people on YouTube that post Patriots highlights. Go on social media. There's a number of accounts that post Patriots highlights. Now, would it be cool to have a documentary solely based on the entirety of the Patriots franchise? Sure. But in my mind, this documentary is more about answering questions Patriots fans have had. Spygate. Deflategate. What did the players and what did the fans and what did the coaches and owners feel about these situations? The Aaron Hernandez situation. Did they know? Who knew? We kind of found that answer out. Malcolm Butler. That question still didn't really get answered, but Robert Kraft gave us the best piece of information we've ever had. It was something personal between Butler and Belichick. That's the most we've had in, 6-7 years since it happened.
Yeah.
And officially, we found out mostly of how and why it ended. So for me, this documentary was not about reminiscing about 20-plus years of success. If they did that, they would have gone through the 2003 Super Bowl and the 2004, the first back-to-back in who knows how long, and the first since these Kansas City Chiefs this past season. Instead, it went through what happened, the trials and tribulations of the Patriots, the downfall. When did it all change? When did Belichick become this hard-shelled human being, especially in front of the media? Spygate, I think, was the start of that. And we see how his attitude shifted towards players. Tom Brady, he was gaining power in about 2010. Thought that, his job security may be on the line in 2010. And also, we have to realize it's based on a Jeff Benedict book called The Dynasty. Except it only focused on the stuff that is enticing to an audience. Conflict. Stuff like that. Conflict, drama. Stuff that people like to watch. Drama series are still on TV. It's maybe keeping some cable channels alive, is producing these drama series and true crime or whatever. Mystery. It's an enticing genre of television, books, whatever the case may be.
One other thing about the Dynasty, and I did like the Dynasty. I watched every episode at least twice.
It's great.
And I like the earlier ones better. I liked it when Brady became a star. I thought that coming out of nowhere, nobody knew who he was hardly. I really liked that part of it.
He didn't know
I do think they spent, they spent a lot of time on Spygate, a lot of time on Deflategate, a lot of time on Aaron Hernandez. It was almost a whole episode was on Aaron Hernandez. So maybe they overkilled that a little bit, but I do think they really did go after Belichick in that series, and I think that there is another side of the story, and these guys are telling it that he gave them a chance. He coached them to Super Bowls that they won that they probably otherwise wouldn't have. Rodney Harrison was playing for San Diego. They never did anything when he was playing for them, or even after that. So McCourty, drafted by the Patriots, spent his whole career there, re-signed with them twice. They have a lot of appreciation for the Patriots organization and what it did for them and what they did for it. So they're making a good point, I think. And that stuff doesn't come through in this dynasty. Maybe somebody else will make another dynasty with a different perspective on it. That's something you can do in journalism and in media, right? You can give anything you want a slant one way or the other. And this one was definitely slanted against Belichick.
Well, my argument with that is, did Belichick ever help himself out in any part of this documentary? No.
He didn't want to do it.
He was asked questions. How about this? Answer them. That's the first thing. If you don't want to make yourself seem like, just a complete dead, hard-nosed person, show some personality.
Okay, well, they asked him about Spygate. Do you have any comment? He said no. They asked Brady about Deflategate. Do you have any comment? And he said no. Neither one of them talked about it at all. They refused to talk about it. They said everything has been said. I've said everything I'm going to say. I'm not going to say another word.
Well, on the Malcolm Butler thing, he asked, why was Malcolm Butler benched? He said, yeah, Matt, we already talked about this. And he goes, no, we didn't. So clearly the pre-interview conversation was, we're not going to talk about the Malcolm Butler situation. I don't want to answer. How about this? Let the people know. If it was, oh yeah, Malcolm Butler threatened my family, that's something we kind of want to know. That doesn't make you seem petty, or how about this? There's no mystery behind it, and how about you don't get blamed for one of the worst Super Bowl decisions the Patriots at least have ever had. Maybe the 4-13 against the Giants in the Super Bowl, maybe that was a bad one. But this is like the ultimate question Patriots had. Why had a guy play 98% of your snaps, who who made a game-saving play 2 Super Bowls ago that you were in, and he doesn't play in this one? Not only that, when your defense starts getting cooked by Nick Foles, do you not even play him? He played, I think, 1 special team snap.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah,
I understand. Players will be mad about that.
Hindsight, people make mistakes. People make mistakes all the time.
He can own up to it.
People make mistakes all the time. If he had it to do over again, my guess is he wouldn't have done it that way.
Well, how about this? Maybe he doesn't need to be specific about what Malcolm Butler said or said not, and we'll probably never know. But at least say, it was personal, and that probably, in retrospect, was not the best decision.
Well, he could never say that because he's all about the team, right? The Belichick's mantra is, "I'm about the team," right? Yeah. So maybe he wasn't in this circumstance, but he's not going to say he wasn't.
At least be humble. Show, like I said, show some personality. Show that, you're not this hard, tough guy that hates everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's what they portrayed him to be in the Dynasty.
He does that to himself every single media session. He comes in post-game and says, we got to play harder. The next week after they get smashed, we got to play harder. On all three phases of the game, offense, defense, special teams. The next week, we got to play better. We got to, improve on all facets. Offense, defense. Help yourself out a little bit.
Well, you know what? It was
didn't paint you in the best picture.
It was,
you could revive your
but
image,
it was a successful formula for a long time, Nate. They won 6 Super Bowls.
Absolutely.
They won 9. They won 9 AFC championship games. Yep. They won the division, 18 times?
Yep.
It's a record.
It didn't work.
It's a record that I don't think will be equaled in our lifetimes.
But
maybe not mine, maybe in yours. We'll see.
My argument is, if people are complaining about how the documentary made Belichick look, how did Belichick make himself look first? And did this documentary just put that in a brighter light that maybe we haven't seen before?
Yeah, well, the timing of it was poor for him because
right.
He's out there trying to find another job, and everything that's been coming out about him has been so negative.
Correct.
Everything.
But if people are worried about how Belichick looked, maybe think it's just showing off more of who Belichick was. Because we saw players
but there's
that
other
played
books.
with Belichick.
Nate, I have a book about Belichick.
Yeah.
It was written by another guy.
It doesn't talk about his personality. It talk about what he did for players and coaches.
No, but it does talk about his personality, and it quotes a lot of the players, and it talks about him having a great sense of humor. Being close with the players. He didn't, and having a strategy that they bought into. So, there's other people have other perspectives on this. This Dynasty thing is one perspective.
Correct.
There are multiple perspectives. I think reading that book, I've got that book. You can read it.
The Jeff Benedict book?
Yeah. No.
It's, was it
I'm trying
Six
to think
Rings?
the guys. No, it's another one.
I know you have another.
It's just a Belichick is the name of
right.
it. I can't remember the author. But it's a good book. I recommend it.
And what, that goes into Belichick the person?
It takes Belichick all the way through from the beginning of his coaching career.
Ian O'Connor.
Even in high school. Ian O'Connor, right.
Yeah, Belichick the making of the greatest football coach of all time.
That's right. Yeah. I recommend that book highly to everybody watching and to you especially.
Yeah. No, Belichick I still think is the greatest defensive coach of all time. And the Patriot way worked for 20 years. But as soon as the guy, the best guy in maybe in NFL history, left that building and the same amount of success did not present itself, clearly there was one guy that made everything work better. It was the grease that kept that conveyor belt nice and smooth, kept everything moving in a nice pace. Who was that?
I can't think who that might have been.
Tom Brady.
Oh, yes.
Once he left and the Patriot way didn't work, clearly something, not saying change, alter, because it didn't work.
Well, you know what? I think that for Brady, he went to the Buccaneers and they won a Super Bowl,
Instantly.
Right? And his first year, but the next 2 years they didn't win.
Well,
they didn't win the next 2 years. In fact, his third year, They just barely made the playoffs, and they lost in the first round.
His first ever losing season in his career.
Yeah, right. So, he did get the one ring after he left the Patriots. What is he going to get? 3? No, he didn't. He didn't get 3.
He at least should have won one more MVP. Yeah. That 2021 season, Rodgers got it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, it's a good argument whether or not Brady
should
deserve it.
I think that there was synergy between Brady and Belichick.
Absolutely.
And I do think it's kind of like the Beatles, right? When they broke up, when they were together, every song was fantastic. Every song was great. Every song, right? There was something about that chemistry between them that made them great. When they broke up and they went on their own, were the songs as great? I don't think so.
Well, that generally happens when something works so great, and then one.
So it wasn't just Brady. It wasn't just Brady. It was the two of them together.
Right.
When they were apart, Neither did as well. Brady did well the first year he got the Super Bowl.
And personally, he
But
did well
after-
that next year as well. He had
personally
like
did well.
4,300
And you know
yards.
what? The second year,
500 yards, sorry.
the second year they came close to getting to the Super Bowl.
It was that Rams NFC Championship.
Yeah,
game,
right.
or
And
divisional game.
there were some injuries for the Bucs in that game.
It was the division.
And I think Brady knew, you could tell in his demeanor in that game that he was like, this is not going to go the way we want. And it almost did.
Well, he retired at the end of that season.
No, he didn't.
He
played
retired
one more.
twice.
That's
He
right.
retired, then came back.
And then he came back.
Which we actually broke the news on the Harvey Hour. That's back when we were recording videos on the show. That was So I remember that vividly. He came back on the same day, or no, he retired on the same day of Super Bowl 49, which he said is his favorite Super Bowl, which is the Seahawks Super Bowl, and he did that 2 years in a row. So there we go. There is some basis to their comments. And I think fans have a right if their expectation was, fans have a right to be mad if their expectation was that this was going to be a nostalgia run of the greatest 20 years in the Patriots history. Instead, it was, I think, answering the questions that Patriots fans have had throughout those 20 years. And if you want to go see the Super Bowls and the great runs, I recommend, I saw it twice, Tom Brady's Man in the Arena on ESPN+. It goes through each of Brady's 10 Super Bowls. And if you only care about him as a Patriot, watch the first 8 or 9 episodes, because the last one talks about his Bucs Super Bowl. That's my opinion on it. You recommend the Ian O'Connor's book. I recommend The Man in an Arena.
I'm going to watch that. I'll watch The Man in the Arena.
If you have high expectations and expect something and it doesn't turn out to be true, that's where disappointment comes into play. So that's my take on it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.